This video, or if it turns out to be a sequence of videos, is to kind of have an active exercise here. This is part teaching, pedagogical, to use the fancy word. This is part homework. And I want to kind of blend the two of them. This class isn't about you performing on your own, and it's separate from teaching, and it's totally separate. We're going to go back and forth. You'll do some work, and then I'll talk more about it. The activities are going to be things that teach you as much as any lectures or anything I'm going to do. So along those lines, we're going to start in Java, a language you should be familiar with. The tool I'm working on is called NetBeans here. You can use whatever IDE you're used to. Eclipse, IntelliJ, whatever tool you're used to can work. You're just going to pull the code in and go from there. There's nothing terribly fancy here. So the application we're going to build is around a raffle. And so the idea is we have this ticket manager for a raffle. And so the ticket manager keeps track of how many people have entered the raffle, and then allows you to add a ticket. Like, let's say you have a machine that scans them, or maybe a website that allows you to enter numbers or buy one or something like that. And then the ticket itself is really simple. It just has a number and the name of the person on the ticket. If you think of the little tickets, you have the roll of the tickets. You'd tear one off, and you could sign the back of it, and you keep half of it, and the other person, and you turn in the other half for the drawing. Well, all that really has on it is a number and a name, and we're staying with that real simple concept of a ticket right there. So you add tickets in, and at some point you can pick a ticket at random from the winner. And so the idea that the ticket is just like if you put them in a big drum, you spin up the drum, and at some point you pull one out, and that becomes the winner. And when you pull one out, you're literally taking it out of the drum. So if you want to have a person be eligible for the second drawing, you've literally got to add that ticket back in, if you will. So again, the pick is not just identifying one of the tickets, it's actually pulling it out of the data structure. And then there's also an extra little debug feature that says, hey, I'm going to hand you a print stream, which is like system.out. And so print all of the tickets that are still in the drum out there, so we can identify and log what's going on. So our Raffle app, then, you're going to implement the ticket manager. And right now I have a little file here, the empty ticket manager, that has each of these methods that you need to implement, but they throw this, it's called an unsupported operation exception. It's part of Java, that says, hey, this is something that somebody needs to fill out, but nobody's written the code for it yet. So if you try and run the application as it is, you're going to get it blowing up. So you got to go through and implement each one of these methods. So the Raffle app itself then is very simple. You don't have to code any of the tests at all here. You might change it over time, but you can define some number of entries. I put 20 out there as a nice number to get started with, but you can do 2 or 100 or 1,000, anything that's in the size of an integer. And then the IDs I've set as 1 to the byte maximum. So bytes go to 128. So we'll just say there's 128 tickets there. So that seemed like a small number you can get started with. So if you put more than that, it's going to change the dynamic of this a little bit. But then I have an ID generator, which is just a random number generator. And so what's happening here is I have this extra helper class, the central ticket manager. And so you're going to add whatever you call it. If you change the name of it, you just need to change the name right here. So if you call it Tony's ticket manager, or whatever your name is, I'm sure you're not Tony, you might be, that name is going to go right here. So that's the place where you're going to put your class. And then all this test code does is it adds a bunch of entries. So whatever the number of entries is, in this case 20, it's going to add 20 entries by generating random number ticket IDs, and then printing out the entry number, essentially, of that as the name. And so after it's added those, it's going to print out those entries. It's going to have your implementation log all those entries. So if you have 20 items, it's going to print out 20 tickets, and then it's going to pick them out one at a time. So until the number of entries is equal to 0, essentially. It's testing to make sure you actually are pulling them out. If you mess this up, you don't actually pull it out, this will get stuck. It'll run forever if you never get down to 0. So once it's pulled out all the entries, it prints it out one more time to confirm that it's indeed empty, that you've picked all the tickets. So the idea is we have 20 prizes and we pick them in an order, in this case, or whatever your number is going to be. It's a nice test to start with. If 20 is too much for you to handle, drop it down to 5, drop it down to 2, whatever you need to test your code for. All right, so this exercise will then be a series of videos that you're going to follow through. My expectation is that you will code whatever you see me do on the screen yourself, and you will turn that in. If you feel like, hey, I got this, I totally understand where this is going on, I know how to do this, take a shot on your own. You can skip towards the end. The end is really you've implemented this and all the test cases pass, but there are a few wrinkles inside of here. So take a look. I don't know which video number it'll be right now because I'm doing this in real time, but I'll try and put some heads up on the exercise to explain it, but you can skip forward. But if at any point you're confused, just walk through the videos and see what I do. They're short, they're on YouTube, you can fast forward, you can watch them at double speed, whatever you need to do. But this is the idea. This sometimes it's one of the best ways to learn is following along somebody else's demo and building it yourself. And so that's what we're going to practice in this series nice and early in the class.